Angela Munson. She is a former state senator for the state of Oklahoma. She also served in the House of Representatives. She served as president of the National Conference of State Legislators. Her most recent job, before the one we're going to talk about, she served as the Outreach and Legislative Director at OK Policy, and now she is retired, and she enjoys traveling, spending time with her loved ones, and supporting her grandbabies. And we're thankful because she is here in between her family reunion, so we're thankful that she's here today. Yes. And in the middle is Ms. Kendra Horn, of course, our former United States Representative for Oklahoma 5th Congressional District. She is also the former Executive Director of Sally's List, and she currently serves as the President and CEO of the OKC Public Schools Foundation. Ms. Kendra Horn. And then I think this gentleman's no stranger to most of us here, Mr. Mike Shelton. He is also a former House representative. I met him when he worked at Metro Tech as the Intergovernmental and Community Liaison. He served recently as the Oklahoma City Public School Board of Education, and he has just been appointed as the Executive Director of Oklahomans for Criminal Justice. Did I get that right? To reform. Yes, I got that there. I was bedazzled by your cap, and I didn't get that last one out. So, yes. So thank you all for being here. We're really excited that you're here and that we're going to have a conversation. We've got tons of people out there. Hopefully we'll get some of them to stop listening to the music for a minute and come in and hear this really great conversation that we're going to have. So the intent is just to have a conversation again, to learn from your experience, give us some ideas about how we can be more involved in our community and what we can do. So, Angela, if you don't mind, if I can start with you. I'm going to ask you this question. These first few are just kind of so we can get to know you a little bit. So, we're live streaming, and we are yes, we are live streaming, sir. and we're taping it. Yes, and we're taping this. So for Angela, we want to encourage community involvement. So do you think an early introduction to public service is a key to lifelong community involvement?
Of course. The earlier the better, but it's never too late. So let me say that first. It's never, ever too late. I started when I was 14 years old. That was just about 10 years ago. Actually, it was almost 60 years ago. Not quite, but close. A long time. And I started as a volunteer with the Oklahoma City Urban League. Urban League was a major change agent organization in our community during that time and was focused on ensuring that black folk had representation on the school board. At that time, there were no black members. There were no members of color, of any color. And we worked really hard. So the league did something called the Black Board of Education. I was 14. They had a community-wide election. So the first office I ever ran for was this Black Board of Education. It had 2 youth spots, and I was elected to one of those spots. Fast forward, the last elected office I ever ran for and won was school board chair for Oklahoma City School Board. So from the time I was 14, there was no black representation, to the time I was some decades older, there was this black woman leading that organization. So that just shows you what continued engagement can do, not alone. So let me just say this quickly. It is a collective effort. It is always a collective effort. So it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are when you start. The key is to find folk of like mind, even if it's just 1 or 2 people. My saying is, it doesn't take but 3 people to start a revolution. And we know that since we're in this place, Jesus and his disciples, how few there were, and we know what kind of change and impression that they made in the world. So don't ever forget, start whenever you want to start, be committed, and find some folk who can join you in the struggle.
Thank you. Kendra, I'm going to ask you, so certainly being young, getting involved, so for you, was there a specific moment when you realized as an ordinary citizen that you had some power to create some change?
Yeah, I think it was a collection of moments, but I agree about starting early because in my family it was if you see something wrong, you can't just sit back and not do anything about it. So watching my parents, my grandparents, there are things in our town that we were working on, and then I started volunteering and working on campaigns. I remember the first one, I was about 13 or 14 when Sandy Garrett was running the first time in a statewide office. And I realized through that and staying involved, student government, and continuing to move forward that if I wasn't going to do something, a lot of times everybody else was looking around waiting for somebody to take action. And it made me realize that if you don't step forward, then there's just this sense of why should we do anything? And that's what I remember in large part. It wasn't just you just stood around and talk about it and complain about it. That was not a rule in my family. You can't complain about something unless you're willing to get up and do something about it. And I think what I've seen throughout the years and continue to see is the idea that we're going to do something and it's going to take care of it forever. And that's where I wanted to be a part of the change, is to help people get involved and use their voices, and we have to realize that it's going to take a long time for us to make this change. And it can be hard when there's still a long ways to go. It's hard to look back and see how far we've come. So for me, it was being young, and then I just kept building on it. Student council, Oklahoma Intercollegiate Legislature, just building on it and finding those like-minded folks and then making those connections.
Thank you. So we talked about, starting when we were young, and certainly I'll say for my generation when we were young, we didn't have all this technology and all of these things that are out there today. And so for you, Mr. Shelton, right, let's talk about technology. We use it a lot as we shape the way we connect and the way we communicate. So do you think that technology has changed the way individuals can contribute and make an impact today? Because kids are all social media savvy and everything today.
I need to say this. It's almost a joke that you asked me that, because technology is going to be the death of me. I swear to God. I mean, I have some great support to help me through technology, and I'm grateful for that. But it has, and I'm going to try to keep it around politics, around community engagement, involvement. Is that technology has not only allowed us to get the word out faster, but it's also being used to create false images of your elected officials and what they're doing. They're able to tell their own story on what's happening rather than making sure that information is getting out there that are going to negatively impact our community. And so specifically, I use Facebook, and that's a loose term. I'm not very good at it.
You have a page.
I have a page, and if I post, it's going to be on that, but I don't do TikTok and all that. But I know people that are wildly successful at doing those things. It's just not my thing, and I'm behind. What I've learned is I'm behind. But it has absolutely changed the game. If you're not on those spaces, you probably will struggle with getting that message out to the community. And it's necessary for a cheaper way to get out your message, but it's necessary to make sure that that you're getting widespread coverage on the things you want to be told. However, the negative is that you can create yourself a whole false image on what's really going on versus the opposite. The reality.
Yeah. But I think in the last election cycle, definitely some parties use that social media more effectively than others, maybe to kind of grow their base and get their message out and get elected.
Yeah, and it's so much just, you don't know what you're looking at is true or not. And so I can, when I my mother's almost in her. She graduated from Douglas High School in '66. I'm not going to tell you how old she is. She'll be mad at me.
You just told
I know it. I know it. She graduated in '66. You can do the math, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say her age. But I watch my mom, and she gets on her phone, and she's clearly looking at AI stuff, and we have a conversation. Mom, that's AI. You know, and because of the implementation of AI and the ability to use those tools to negatively impact opinions amongst our elderly, we got to be really, really cautious.
Cautious and I think educated, right?
Absolutely.
Educate ourselves.
Educated.
Yeah.
I gotta and please forgive me because I done talked 3 times. But I will say you got to be real cautious on where you're getting your news. Even what you have traditionally depended on, your ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, whatever, they're clearly fixed. The information that's come out of that is that they're able to doctor what you believe and all of that. And so there are some other ways to get your news that people need to expand.
Well, I think you're right. It's a double-edged sword, and I think I just want to add, especially when we're talking about community engagement here, that the human connection in person is even more important now when it's easy to just get lost in the technology. It can be a great tool, and if we don't build connection face-to-face with people in our communities, then it's much harder to build those movements because it's more superficial. It goes faster, but it's superficial. Those deep connections are what I fully believe is going to help us to create some deeper change.
I agree. So we talk about this, and I'm going to throw this back to you about people caring deeply about their communities but don't know where to start, right? So give us maybe one step where they can start to make those connections and make some changes.
It's easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of information, and that's, you hear that all the time. And what I say is start where you are with the community around you, whether it's your church or your school or the kids' school or your workplace, and finding people with like interests, because we're taking in so much, and there are a lot of real problems. I mean, that there is no denying that. But if we try to tackle it all at once, then we're going to feel overwhelmed and just feel paralyzed and like we're not making a difference. So my advice is find 1 or 2 things you care about and start to connect with people who are doing some work in that space locally. Because until we change things around us, we can't change things on a larger level. And that's it. That helps at least me, and I think others, from feeling like it's hopeless. So if we're optimistic in a way that doesn't recognize the reality of the challenges we have, then we're tilting at windmills and we're just rose-colored glasses. If we're pessimistic and we think we can't make a difference, well, the same thing, you just don't work. But if you're realistic to see the big challenges and also know that there's some things we can do, so find an organization, if it's your church, if it's something else, something in your community that you care about, pick 1 or 2 things, don't try to do it all.
I just want to respond to that because that is the hardest thing I think about people getting involved. You can feel overwhelmed, problems are huge, or you can feel like somebody else is doing it, so I can't. Or I shouldn't. So, I mean, it's just the extremes of the whole schism of sorts. So I always tell people, really, exactly that. Think about it locally. People tend to engage more about problems that affect them on their day-to-day lives. If it's not personal, if they're not going to feel it, if it's somebody else's problem or somebody else's situation. And we want people to engage. That's the only way we can make the kind of social and political changes that people need to be informed, verify, and validate. Social media can just lie. So just validate. Get you some credible sources. And then when it comes to being involved, I told somebody, we were talking about voter registration. So, yeah, there are big voter registration drives. Well, what would I rather have, 2 or 3 really, really big ones or about 100 small ones? I'd rather have 100 small ones because the connection is more direct and the numbers actually grow. So don't think because I can't make it be big or large or all that, I shouldn't do it. Just do a little at a time, guys. Just a little in every community. If every neighborhood, if every block said, you know what, we're going to just make sure our trash gets picked up, or we're going to make sure these wild dogs are not running crazy, or we're going to make sure people in my block go vote, just this one block. If we did that on every single block, it's just 20 houses to hit and make sure folk go vote. If we did that every block, boy, we'd have a huge turnout. So think about these bites of the problem that we can manage and you can effectively make a difference. And if you do it, you'll get somebody to join you next time.
I put my mic down because I was talking too much. I just want to piggyback because, and I'm not picking on anyone, but a lot of us have left the communities that we started in. And the communities that we live in are, and I'm not picking on any Edmondites, but I'm going to use them as an example, that we've moved off of Northeast Oklahoma City. We've gained some type of status, and we've moved into the more suburban areas. But on this election, we really need you to come back to your old neighborhoods. We really need you to connect with the people in these communities, register people in these communities, and not only register them, because that's not it, is make sure that they go vote.
Yes, that.
It's critical that we educate our communities, not only to register, go vote, but vote the entire ballot. If you knew how many people just go vote for governor or just go vote for their favorite candidate, is that called an overvote?
Undervote.
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 You'll it's political junkie just nerding out, but there's hundreds of people that just go vote for the one person they know, and we have to educate our communities, not only to register, go to the communities that really need you, the ones that you where you grew up, and then go vote and vote the whole ballot.
I'm just going to say this. Oklahoma has the 7th or 8th, can't remember which, lowest voter turnout of any other state. I read an article yesterday, it said 7, but now is it the lowest? Well, it doesn't matter. It's below 10 in the whole country. Think about that.
And not too long ago, and I hadn't read that article, but we were, of the number of people that could vote, right? 4 million people in the state, about 3 million are eligible to vote for age or whatever reasons. About just over 2 million now, between 2 and 2.5 million, are actually registered. And in statewide elections, at least in the last statewide election, we only had just over 1 million votes. So a quarter of the people in this state are making the decisions, and because of the undervote, what he's saying, it gets even worse at the local level. So a handful of votes can make a difference.
We're gonna flex because we got a question.
Briefly, with respect to Bethlehem Star, our esteemed 3-member audience, my name is Donald Clytus, and my question to the members are: about an hour ago, I received a call from the president of the Oklahoma Press Association and the vice president of the Oklahoma Press Association. And the question to me was that I have to do an interview at 3 o'clock today, was how did I register 64,000 people in the last 8 years, personally, under the age of 24, who are now 32. And my question is, with you all's experience and leadership, what do I tell them is our biggest crisis as a state, so that I can answer and articulate that question to a 400 newspaper audience within 1 hour?
So I'm going to respond to that real quickly because, I mean, there's a plethora of problems. So I'm going to say it because I think it's just what we've been talking about, getting people to engage. Because if people would engage, then we would really hear their issues. There would be a mass of us to work on those issues. So if it's education may be yours, healthcare may be mine, Aging services really might be mine. So it doesn't matter. So all issues are very personal. So if there was a singular, unifying problem or concern, for me, it would be people just need to know stuff, credible information, and then be willing to do a little about it. So registering 64,000 people or whatever number, Donald, that's huge. I wish I could say you had a whole list of them, knew all the names and numbers and addresses. All right, so you got a task to get all those 64. Donald is running for state corporation commission, for those of you who didn't know. So, well, I mean, I just.
Conduit and the messages that come before a little black child who grew up 2 blocks away from here that went to Edwards Elementary
Yeah.
with no money, no car, and a grandmama who worked 24 hours a day, 10 days a week in Nichols Hills. The message is because you all are trailblazers.
Right. Well,
But when I sit in front of the panel today, I will be the only person of color in the history of this state to articulate why this community and why this city and this state must thrive with the lowest historical turnout amongst underrepresented populations.
that's right.
Post the greatest victory in the history, which was 2018, in 79 years for a representative of democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald.
So we've talked about finding that one thing that kind of resonates with you to allow you to go and get connected with your community. And I think sometimes people get a little frustrated because they don't see the movement that they desire when they get involved. So is there a way to kind of measure or say, the work you're doing is having some results? Do we need to measure? Do we need to be concerned about that so that we can keep people moving forward?
There's a lot of ways to measure it, but it's not a straight line. It's not a straight pathway, and I completely agree with you, Angela. If we're going to look at what the biggest problem is, it's lack of engagement. So we can measure it by voter participation. We can measure it by decisions that are being made in our capital, here and federally, and many other ways. But I think we come back down to it is who is showing up to vote. Because decisions are made by the people that show up. And if we don't show up, there's no pathway to change. But we can see that some things are better, and then we go back. And that's where when things move backwards, it's easy to just throw your hands up, right? But you can't stop trying. Because if you do, then you just keep moving backwards. So we can measure it in a lot of ways, but I think the biggest measurement is in how we ask ourselves, are we going to keep showing up or not?
And Wendy, I want to respond to this because I am a true community organizer. I mean, literally, that's what I've been paid to do, but I did it for free anyway. So I would tell groups of just regular citizens, we go in little big communities all across the state, bring together a group of folk just like you, who individually they have some concern. That's why they showed up to that meeting. And we tell them, once you organize folk in your community, the key is celebrate everything. So that's how you get people coming back. So we would say, yeah, you want to, I'm going to just make it real, a stoplight on the corner. So you celebrate if you get it, but if you get a council person or a town board member to at least introduce an ordinance to put the stop sign or stoplight on the corner, celebrate that. If you have a meeting and double your number of folk that show up, celebrate that. Make a big deal of it. So make it public. We're doing something, because you are. Because those are the steps that are required to get to the big goal. So true community engagement, community organizing requires a recognition that everything you do is successful. Yes. And it's worth celebrating and elaborating. I ain't gonna say lie about it, hardly, but maybe make it a little bigger than the average would do. Because people need to say, I want to be a part of that, because they're doing something. So tell people you're doing it. Keep doing that.
Keep doing it. Keep bringing it to the forefront. Maybe use a little social media to get that celebration out there a little bit. Do some of those things,
Learn a
right?
little TikTok.
TikTok, right? Yeah. I think maybe that's a way. We're going to talk about bringing young people into it, right? Use their talents and things, because they're if they're social media savvy, they can be the people who are helping us spread that word.
But there's still a whole lot of old people like me who don't know how to a mic, who don't know how to do TikTok, Instagram. And I tell folk, if you do social media only, you're gonna miss a huge audience.
Yes.
You're You're sitting on the edge of your seat, sir. Did you want to add something to that?
No, I was, but I think that I'll just say this, is that I'm going to leave it alone. They did a great job of answering it.
Okay, all right. You want to? So I have this really good question, and I'm gonna say I didn't write this question. Miss Woods wrote this question, but I love it. It says that we have people like Angela Davis who serve as living examples of standing firm in their convictions and advocating for themselves and others. She's a powerful example of what it means to stay the course. And I think just what Kendra said, we got to stay the course. So with that in mind, do you think the real answers to many of our community challenges, and I think this is for all of y'all, lie not only with elected officials, but with everyday people, our community elders, our leaders, our parents, our aunts and uncles, and neighbors? You know, government does have a role to play, but I think, and Tanasha thinks too, that another piece really starts with us.
I think I really gave Tanasha this question. No, it sounds like some of our great conversations we've had over time is that it's so much going on in the world. And she brings up Angela Davis and those leaders. And I think that it is critical to hold those people accountable, but I'm about to use a quote from our superintendent at Oklahoma City Public Schools, is systems don't change until the adults change. And it's so critical that your aunts, uncles, cousins, and everybody else change and get engaged and make things, we got to figure out what makes them important. As for our elected officials, holding them accountable, the accountability measure, and this is Mike Shelton talking, and so I don't want this to reflect on anybody else, but we got to, even our wonderful black elected officials, we got to hold them accountable. And not only we need to know what's really going on, because there's always been, from the moment slavery ended, there's been attack on all freedoms of blacks. And right now, somewhere, the Angela Davis's speaking truth to power has died. And it's not white folks that are killing civil rights. That yes, they're trying to take away rights that we've had. They've been trying to take away those rights, but it is often our elected officials and us that need to take the responsibility of killing civil rights conversation when we won't bring it up, when we have those seats of power and we don't bring up civil rights, when we decide to stay silent. Silence, what's the statement? Silence is, what is consent? Okay, thank you. So anyway, I'm gonna let one of them go.
You know, yes, it is up to us individually. And we individually have power, but the power is strengthened collectively. So, you know, it all should be reflective. I mean, you can only ask what I should do. My mama told me a long time ago, Angela, your life going to be so much better when you realize the only person you can control is yourself, and you need to work real hard doing that. And I was this bossy kid. So, I mean, I hear her telling me that all the time. But it's so true. We can only be responsible for ourselves. We have individual power, but if we don't use it, we are powerless. So we have all these great icons like Angela Davis who's still around. We have a whole lot of people who still grace us with their presence on this earth that we can point to. Well, don't think you have to be them to make the kind of change that we want in our communities, but you got to do something. And that something could be just a simple vote. And it could be double the power if you just took one other person with you. Think about it small like that. So I just think we have to figure a way to incorporate these changes we want and the actions we have to take in our regular daily lives. They just have to become a part of what we do. I'm going to put a plug in because we didn't get paid for today for this little local publication called the Oklahoma City Herald. Yay. And we try to tell good stuff, helpful stuff, but we also try to hit some stuff to the point. It make you think. Just think about what your life is like now, what it could be, what you want, and call somebody. If you like get stuck like, man, I hate this, I don't even know what to do. Call Tanasha, call Wendy, call me. I mean, and we'll hook you in. I'll ask what kind of time you got. I ain't got but an hour a month. We'll figure out how to use that hour a month effectively. It doesn't matter how little or how much. Just feel personally and individually responsible. Mike is right. Silence is not golden. If you're in a position, nobody wants to jeopardize their jobs, and people get scared. I mean, people literally nowadays, they rightfully so. People get fired. The Trump era has created something that we have never seen in this country before. But if we allow it to immobilize us and create fear in what we do, we will be back where we were. And I don't think any of us, like they say, we ain't going back. So we got to make sure we stand firm and fight for what we have. And that fight doesn't have to be a fist fight. It could just simply use those words, you know, I don't think what you did was quite fair. Or can you really rethink your actions that you took that negatively impacted me? Speaking to somebody. Just make them think. Hold somebody accountable.
Absolutely. And I'll add, I think this is a great question, and so much wisdom coming from both Mike and Angela, not surprising. I think there are a lot of people that we can look to that have big megaphones, that have a larger influence. We also have incredible leaders in our communities, like Angela, like Mike, like others, and not just elected officials that are continuing to do the work, that are leading with their lives and with their efforts on a day-to-day basis. And I think sometimes when we think about people with a big megaphone and we just defer to them, we're giving away our power of our voice. We're giving away the idea that we can make a difference. So just to add on to something, Angela, that you said, because we've worked together on things, right? Sometimes it's about just building that relationship. Because in this era of name calling and just assuming that someone is against you based on who they are or what they look like, there is power in building a relationship and having those hard conversations in a way that helps open things up, and listening, right? I think that's one of the most valuable things that I've been able to learn and gain from relationships with, I'm looking at Tanasha, right? We've had a relationship and been friends for a long time, and she has been able to, years ago, say things to me, hey, I don't know if you understand this thing, and if I hadn't been willing to listen, I wouldn't have learned a lot. But it's through those conversations, because we've all got our own experiences, and recognizing, like, my experience I know is different, but if we're not willing to learn, and if we're just relying, great people, great voices, right? Angela Davis doing incredible, but we don't just have to let those people do the work. I think that's, for me, what so much of it's about. We gotta know we have the power ourselves.
So we're going to wrap. I want to be respectful of your time. Like I said, Angela's got to get back to her family reunion, so we want to do that. My family, we have a Zoom call every Sunday, and we talk a lot. We are an opinionated family, and my dad, he is frustrated with the current situation in our political environment, and so we talk. So there's a tendency to bemoan everything that's going on, and so finally we said, okay, enough complaining. You know, what are we going to do? What little step are we going to do to kind of make some change in that? So we're working through that, kind of talking about that, and so I think y'all have given us some great ideas. And I think just if you would leave us with one, your last thought about to encourage us to step a little bit outside of ourselves, to do that one thing, and make some maybe alliances and connections with maybe people outside of our circle or our community. And if that's important in getting things done, that Yes, we want to work in our communities. We definitely want to do that. But sometimes we might need to reach a little outside to get some help, to get something done. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course I have some thoughts on that. So if I'm going to leave you with anything, I would say do a personal assessment. I mean, that's kind of first step. You know, what is it I really am willing to do? And be honest with yourselves. I mean, because a lot of people will, it's like Scripture talks about people being, they have the zeal without the knowledge. We all have zeal because we want things to be better. But you got to have the knowledge. So get some factual information, but then decide, okay, now that I have this information, I want things to change, what am I really willing to do? And be honest and don't try to bite more than you can swallow, because then you'll quit. And I've seen too many people, good activists, good social change folk, just burn out because they just feel overwhelmed. So don't do that. We need you to stay in the struggle for the long haul. Then in whatever circle you're in, so you decide I really am committed, just decide in this circle, in this church, in my sorority, my fraternity, my neighborhood association. I mean, you have groups. In my family group, whatever your friend group is, just figure out, is there someone else that feels like I feel? And then just start that dialogue. It may be you have in your sorority a big social change committee. Join that committee, figure it out. And then last I'm going to say is be very strategic in your planning. Don't just be haphazard. Have a plan. Get a plan. Work a plan. Plans should have goals identified, very specific things, tangible things that you can do. They should have tactics associated with it. What are those actions? What are we going to do? They should have opportunities to evaluate the effectiveness of those things and then restart the planning process. They should identify who your friends are. You say go beyond, well, we want to do voter registration. Well, maybe the League of Women Voters outside our community could help. Maybe the Rotary Club. We got New Northeast Oklahoma City Rotary Club. Think about who outside can be your allies and who can build you. But also think who's going to be against you. What is, I don't necessarily say who, but what might be in opposition to those tactics that you want to employ. But then start. Put yourself on the schedule. Stay on that schedule. I'm speaking to me here about some things that I want to do. Stay on that schedule. Focus on it. But if you're not able to reach that goal, don't beat yourself up. Evaluate and start the process again. It is a long process. Social change will be here until the earth is no longer here. I mean, let's be for real, guys. This is humanity has always wanted. There have always been people who want to enslave and belittle others for whatever reason. That is who we are, unfortunately, as humans. We won't get theological on you, but so we know that exists. So this fight is a lifelong fight. There are periods of goodness and there are periods of really social unrest. So get ready for the fight, stay in the struggle, and peace to everybody who's here and all those who are not.
I mean, what is there to say? That was beautiful. I think that's exactly right. And the only two things I would add is, what is your talent? Because there's needs for all different kinds of people in the spotlight, behind the scenes. So find where your strengths and natural talents lie. And two, don't spread yourself so thin. I think Angela said that, but it's important to say it again, because when you want to make a difference, you feel like you got to do everything. And there are seasons that you can be more active in certain ways, and seasons where you need to pull back and take care of yourself to then be able to help take care of others. So everything she said, and that, because this is a long-term effort, and we have to be in it for the long haul.
If I ask you to raise your hand on how many times throughout your lifetime have you ever heard them say, this election is the most important of your life? Every one of them, you've heard that. But I can tell you, if I ask you to say, does this feel like the most important election of your life? We would most likely all agree. I'm not going to try to change anything that they say, but I think that we all pretty much align. it's so critical that you get engaged. I know not everybody lives in Northeast Oklahoma City. For those that live in the suburban areas of Oklahoma City area, I want you to make sure that your elected officials know that you live there. And you need to establish a relationship with those people. But I will ask you again, for those people that have roots in Northeast Oklahoma City, grew up on these streets of Northeast Oklahoma City or wherever, small towns, wherever, I'm asking that you find your way back there and making sure that those communities are registered, go vote, fill out the ballot from top to bottom, have a plan on what they're going to do election day, making sure that if elderly need to get voted to do absentee, that they register for that on time. It's important that not only they register on time, but there's a notary available that can only do 10 right? 10. They can only notarize 10.
It's a special exemption, but that's
They can only notarize 10 ballots. So it's critical that a plan is in place, because we need every vote. Because if for any reason they need to figure out how to get rid of votes, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I'm telling you, I feel that the votes were tampered with, and I think that they'll do it again. And so I appreciate being invited. I appreciate Miss Wendy for being here, moderating, and sitting on stage with these wonderful women.
yay. Yo
Thank
ho.
you. Well, I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you for taking your time out to come and share with us your insight and your experience and some really good tips about what we can do to be more involved in our community, and that it doesn't take necessarily a big grand gesture to make a difference, and then we can make that difference by taking little small steps. So thank you for that. And thank you for Ms. Tanasha, Ms. Woods, for facilitating, getting this panel together, feeding me, being my mentor and guide as we did that. And she and I have been talking, so we've got some ideas, and I got some more ideas after listening to them. So we'll talk about some things that we can do. So I know most of the people out there, I know their hearts. I know that they want the best for themselves, their communities, and the people around them. So I'm sure they're going to take what we heard here today and do something with it. Yes.
Amen.
Yes. So
Amen,
thank you.
sister.
Thank you very much, and thank y'all for staying. Thank you.